welcome to the Everyday Millionaire Show with Ryan Greenberg and Nick Kalkas. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Everyday Millionaire Show. We are here with Jimy Chavarria.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good. Okay. All right. I wish you were here a couple minutes ago. I had some of my guys working. You heard my Spanish. It's actually
okay.
Pretty good.
It always amazes me when he starts speaking. I'm like, oh shit, wait, I forgot you could do that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to bring you onto my podcast. It's all Spanish, so.
You know, it's funny. I was thinking about asking you to come on, and then I'm like, what if I fuck up too much? Like I went to college to be a Spanish teacher originally.
Uh-huh.
And my parents owned an equestrian farm. Like they had a business in the horse world, and I always had they had Spanish workers around me when I was a kid. Like I was 6, 7, and I was just around the language so much that my brother and I both. My brother's 5 years younger than me. We both just picked it up.
Okay, cool.
And then when we got into like 7th grade, when they started offering like foreign language, we started taking that. And then the school realized that we were both like already basically speaking Spanish. They put us through like I maxed out of Spanish classes at 10th grade. And then they put me in like independent studies. So I had a one-on-one teacher. And then we went to like Costa Rica and did like an immersion thing. And then like all this, all this stuff that led me to go, I'm going to be a Spanish teacher. And then 2 years or like a year into college being a Spanish teacher, I realized that writing and reading are way different than speaking.
Yeah.
Like I could speak really well, fluent. I say soy casi fluido, but I can't like write an essay well.
Right.
So when I got into those like higher level classes in college, I was like, oh fuck, this is more than I want to do. So that's my journey. Now that I own a construction company, of course I work with a lot of Spanish guys, and I'm able to use it every day, so it sticks with me, and I'm grateful. That's kind of one of my superpowers, I feel like, in this industry anyway.
Yeah, I mean that's really good that you can communicate with your workers. I'm pretty sure they appreciate that. Like, hey, this gringo isn't gringoing.
Yeah. I try my best. It's funny whenever we get new guys like in the crews, whenever I show up, I'll hear them all say like, be careful, he understands what you're saying. Like they always like warn each other, because most gringos, they don't come onto the jobs that they don't understand what the people are saying. So they could say anything they want, and they'll always say like, cuidado.
Yeah.
Like, watch what you're saying.
Yeah.
So that's funny. So speaking of Spanish things, you have a very similar business to me, but in the Latin world.
Yeah. So, I mean, you kind of, are kind of talking about already. A lot of the guys that work for you that do the work are Spanish. And my whole thing was me being born and raised here is a lot of these guys know how to do the work, but they don't know how to put the pieces together for themselves to become flippers or investors in this world and build that generational wealth for their families or their kids, because they came here looking for a better opportunity and to give their kids better opportunity. And just having this knowledge that I just learned, maybe 4 years ago has been life-changing in my life. So I can give it to them and kind of, this is how you do it. And they already know how to do the work.
Right.
And that's kind of like the hardest part with us in this world.
Yeah, I would say construction. So Chase is a realtor. I brought him like onto my team when he was selling real estate, had one flip under his belt. And I tell everybody, I was like, construction is the hardest part. And that's why I had to start a construction company, because I started as an investor. And then you get taken to school by some of these contractors and you don't know any better. You get screwed over and you can lose a whole lot of money really quickly. So I learned early that construction is the hard part. Everybody thinks, I feel like money is the hard part, but money's the easiest part. Once you have a good deal, money's the easy part. And I think that's like a common misperception with not only Spanish investors, but just investors overall, newbie investors. They always think, oh, well, how do I get the money to do this? But like, if you have a good deal, there's a ton of lenders. I know your wife, I think, is a private lender, right?
Yep.
we would lend money out. We have private lenders that we work with, and that like bring us a good deal, and the money will be there.
Yeah.
I think is that hard to explain in your world? Because I do feel like most of the Spanish guys that I know, they don't even use credit at all or any debt.
Yeah, it's just because we're taught that credit is bad, having credit cards is bad, but they don't tell us why they can be bad or they can be good. But they always want to pay in cash, especially with everything going on right now. It's kind of scary times for my community. But again, it's showing them how to put those pieces together. That is so important that I brought my wife on, like, hey, there's a need and I can't do it on myself. And kind of how we were talking about kind of letting the baby go a little bit where, I like being a control freak, but I can't do it all. There's no way. So just putting those pieces together, like, hey, if you bring a good deal, you guys already know how to do the work. It's okay to use hard money because instead of you just doing one deal, you could do 3 deals at the same time. And, if they all sell at the same time, you literally just tripled your money if you would have just been focused on one deal in that same time frame. Mm-hmm. I'm a huge time person. So that's what I try to, kind of tell them, like, the name of this game is how fast can you get your money back is the time.
Yep. I think, and Chase can add to this too, but like coming up with money just for one deal is hard if you're not going to use any kind of private lending. I know Chase learned a lesson on his first flip because he gave away a bunch of equity in the deal, and the deal was really profitable. And his business partner is still your good friend and a referral partner, but took 40%, right?
Yeah, I mean, happily. I mean, anybody would take 40% of that deal and lend out $60K. So he made almost double his money just lending it out. And like, that was a learning lesson. But also at the time, like, I didn't have $60K to put out. You know what I mean? So you do what you got to do, but you can get creative. There's different ways to find partners that'll, come onto the deals. Going back to what you guys were talking about, the most important part is the construction piece. I learned that also my first flip. I had a contractor actually screw me over and did everything. We had a whole scope of work, signed agreement, everything locked to the T, pending about to close, appraisal, contingencies, everything's through. Mm-hmm. 2 weeks away from closing, I get hit with a stop work order. And they didn't pull permits, and I thought they did.
Don't point to that; those are inspection stickers.
Yeah.
This is a permanent job here, Anne Arundel County. This is
no.
job.
I was pointing to that just because that's where the stamp goes. But nonetheless, I thought they had pulled permits, and I was a newbie investor. I didn't even know what permits really were. Like, I didn't know if you had to or you didn't, depending on what you were doing inside. So I learned a valuable lesson there on like how contract like. I could have lost everything. Like, they could have came in and told me I had to gut the whole house and start over.
Yeah.
And that would have really hurt. Probably would have not, I probably wouldn't want to invest again. So
right.
At the end of the day, contractors are the biggest piece to flipping. And like, if your guys already have that piece, they just have to have that knowledge and that education now.
Right.
So is that something that you do? Do you like walk them through the whole process? Because like a drywall guy, Tyler, like something like somebody that knows how to do the work, they probably don't know like the permit process. They might not know like the whole business aspect behind it. Is that something that you're consulting with your clients about?
So I mean, we start them off from the very first thing, which is building an LLC. Why you build an LLC? We connect them with a tax person to kind of properly do your taxes, the 1031s, once you go sell your property. And then from there is how to get funding for these deals and showing them, talking about points and, the different percentages and how if you keep doing this, something else that I found out is that the more flips you do, they don't even look at your credit anymore, which is crazy, Mm-hmm. But that's something else to kind of look for. Or sometimes they'll partner up with people that have experience, and then they'll team up on an LLC, and that way they both get credit, and then, then they go their separate ways. So because just like you said, maybe this guy's a drywaller, but this guy's the tile guy, but they join forces, you know, and then they bring in a roof guy or whatever, and then they just keep helping each other out. Then it's basically I'm a big 70% rule guy, just because, especially in today's market, how things are kind of shifting a little bit. You know, it's the numbers, and if the numbers hit, then the numbers hit. If they don't, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So, and then kind of teach them about a little bit how to run comps or how to see comps, just to give them some basic stuff, how to do the formulas, and then the scope of works, obviously, just, you know, how to write them, and then how to pull draws. They know how to do that. And that's pretty much it. And then once they finish doing that, I team them up with somebody else that wants to learn. That way, like, hey, you know, I showed that guy, now you show that guy. That way, you know, I'm really helping my community help each other out.
That's cool. So are you building some sort of like downline on that, so you get paid when, like, if you were to teach me how to do it and then I taught Chase, do you have some way that you're collecting like commissions on each piece of that?
So yeah, so we're kind of working on a system that basically, like, hey, you know, I was a mentor, so then I have, you know, Chase, and now, hey Chase, now you're gonna take these people on, and basically a commission type split, like, hey, to join this mentoring program. Because something else that, you know, I'm kind of learning in this world is, like, you know, everybody wants free advice.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, there's a lot of people that pay money to get informed and learn stuff, and, you know, I mean, you look at your Cardones and all that stuff. I mean, you know, people are paying.
Yeah.
And rightfully so, because, you know, there is money to be made here. And if you want to skip those bumps and bruises, you know, it isn't cheap. And then we're also building this kind of nationally a little bit. We're pushing. I mean, we closed a deal in Oklahoma where an investor reached out to us, wanted to start, build their LLC, connected with a realtor out there and a wholesaler, put the deal together. We're getting commission from the realtor, getting commission from the wholesaler, and all the numbers work. So
Is the investor here?
no, in Oklahoma.
So somebody from Oklahoma contacted you here in Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
And how did they get your contact? How are you marketing?
So we're doing podcasts in Spanish when you're going to come through. And yeah, so we're doing our podcast. They're reaching out to, you know, nationally, and people are reaching out to us like, hey, I want to invest. How do I start? How do I do it? And then we put them through the program.
That's cool. Very similar to what I'm doing. I think we spoke on the phone about this. Like, I don't want to say scared, but like, I haven't wanted to go out of state because I feel like the need to control everything here, and having the construction, and then like Chase now basically sells everything for me, him and his team. I like having that control, and I feel like relying on like some contractor in Oklahoma would make me a nervous wreck.
So the investor is the contractor.
But he lives here.
No, he lives in
Oh,
Oklahoma.
he lives in Oklahoma. Okay, I see what you're saying. So he's the contractor, and all he needed was a link to somebody that had the deal, and essentially probably needed the money.
Yeah, we gave him, and we funded the deal too as well.
Huh.
So you kind of hit all pieces of the pie there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So are you doing just flips, or are you doing like teaching people how to build a rental portfolio?
So we're
as well?
also teaching them the Burr method as well. El método Rocar.
So what about management?
So management, we haven't got to that piece yet. I guess I'm going to have to see how much you're going to charge me for that
I'm going to
part.
say cuidado. That's what I'm going to say.
We haven't gotten to that piece yet, but maybe it's something that we probably have to talk to kind of, you know, how to build that system there for them. Just because these folks are kind of just starting out a little bit. But how to kind of set those systems up, or even how to set those systems from here nationally to kind of, you know, help them while they get up and running.
Yeah, property management. I've said it probably to nausea on this podcast, but it's the hardest, most thankless business that exists. It is, and it's funny enough. Chase, when he first started coming around, he was transitioning out of the Air Force and coming to work full time in the real estate world, and he was like, I want to start a property management company. I'm like, no, don't do it. And it's not because I don't want the competition. It's because you don't want this headache. And then would you drive around with me for a couple weeks? And then you're like,
it was like 2 months. He was like, dude, just ride around with me for 2 months. Just wait. And then he's like, you'll see all the fires and all the mess and all the stress. He's like, you don't want this. He's like, I promise you, whatever you think you're gonna make, it's not worth it.
it's a, you know, I tell people all the time that because they'll ask me for advice in property management because they think, oh, I just take 10% and it's easy. I just collect 10% of the rent, and it's. If you collect the rent and you pay the owners on time, you just did the baseline. You just did your job. If you have an issue where the toilet's broken, the tenant's mad at you, the owner's mad because they have to pay money to fix the toilet. So now both parties in the transaction are mad at you. When I build a kitchen for somebody or I do a flip and they make a bunch of money, everybody's happy. We're in property management, if you've done your job, you're just doing the baseline. There's no like exceptional, like people aren't giving you kudos. They're not like, and that's a big part of like motivation is the people being happy. And it seems to me, and I could just be a jaded property manager who's been doing it for too long. It's very hard to make all parties happy. If the tenant's happy, there's something wrong and the landlord's not happy. If the landlord's happy, the tenant's not. There's never like both. Have you ever met a tenant that likes their property management company?
No,
like
they're just probably like, oh shit, here we go.
They're just the guy that's come. They're just some quote unquote rich guy coming to take all my money. That's what they look at us as. And I have to explain to them like, no, ma'am or sir, I don't own the house. I just represent the owner, and my job is to collect the rent. And then they don't pay, and then my job is to evict that person, and then they tell me that they're a single mom and they're struggling, and then they're this, and I again just represent the owner. I don't have any say, and then they take me to court. So then, you know, like that's what my life is like every single day in property management. And in construction, there's fires, of course. There's things that, you know, not literal fires, hopefully, but problems that need to be solved. But like at the end of the day, if we flipped a house or Chase sold a house for somebody, like there's happiness. Like there's people that are thankful and happy. Where in property management, that's not what happens.
Yeah.
So it's a tough business.
Yeah.
For 8% gross. You think most businesses, they're like 30% gross gives you hopefully 15% net. You know, in this business, 8% gross is what you get. And then the economies of scale are really hard because you have to then, if you want to bring on a portfolio of, let's just say somebody has 20 properties, well, I need to hire maybe another whole person for that. And that portfolio might not even bring in the revenue to cover that extra person.
Wow.
But if I don't have that extra person, then somebody's life in my company is miserable because they have the ratio of properties to employees is messed up. So between service calls, tenant placement, rent collection, owner payouts, you need a staff of people. And with an 8%, 10%, whatever it is, margin, especially if you're doing these like $1,500 town, you know, $1,500 rents, like $150 doesn't cover much.
Right.
By the time you pay Appfolio, the software, all this stuff, like you're maybe bringing home 6%, 5% at the end of the day. Wow. And then where's the money?
Yeah.
That's a tough business. So I don't know what to tell you.
What are you telling your investors right now? They come to you and they're like, Jimmy, like, I want to build a portfolio. Should I manage these myself or should I hire a property manager?
So, I guess my community is very controlling and a lot of them know how to do the work. So a lot of them think like I can handle it. So that's kind of the mentality that they'll probably have, or that they do have when I bring it up. Yeah. I say a property managing company, and they're like, "What for?" I'm like, "Oh, they collect." And they're like, "Can I do that?" Yeah. Oh, but they'll call you for like a fire, like you say, oh, like the toilet's gone or hot water. Like, but I can do that, right? Yeah. So what do I need them for? So it's a lot of like that. They're okay doing the work because it's just kind of normal for them. So
I think that is probably the right mentality.
Hold on. Sorry, there was a wasp.
did you get it?
No.
It's because you left the door open for so long. I saw another gnat in here too. Goodness gracious.
Crawling around my damn book bag right now.
What kind of shit show are we running here?
Just gonna zip him in there.
Goodness gracious.
that.
So I think what I learned by building a portfolio and then starting a property management company, it's easy at first. You got a couple of houses, couple of people to collect. Then you get to tax season. And if you're not really dialed in with organization on how much did we collect, how much did we spend in CapEx, then what you're missing out on is essentially a lot of the benefits to real estate, which is the tax benefits, the ability to do cost segregations and know what exactly you spent that year. A lot of people miss that. They won't, like, for example, if somebody goes and fixes their own toilet and they don't bill themselves for that time, that's a write-off. That goes against your taxes.
Okay.
So what I try to explain to people, like, sure, you can go do that work yourself, but when you do that, you should be billing another LLC or yourself, because that's time that somebody else would have charged you for. That's an expense for your company.
Right.
And if you don't value your own time, then sure, but you have to value your time.
Yeah.
And I think that's where property management really helps people, is when they're not good at doing the books and getting to the table with taxes and really taking full advantage of why people buy real estate.
Right.
Whereas we run software that's very, very expensive that does all of that for you. So when you have 1, 2, 3, 4 properties, you could do it with a spreadsheet. You could do it with some cheap software or whatever. But if you're not managing the books correctly, you're missing out. Most people are going to be missing out on a lot of the benefits.
Right.
That's kind of how I explain it to people. So when you do manage your own properties, like things that I suggest, I actually have a coaching client, Jet, who he wanted to get into real estate. He has a business completely out of real estate, Dreamers Event Rentals. He does tents, tables, weddings, all that kind of stuff. Any kind of party, he'll rent you a tent, tables, chairs, whatever. And he makes good money, and he wanted to get into real estate investing. When I found him a deal, I sold him a deal, made a creative financing deal work for him and another friend that we were selling the house for. When he got to the property management piece, I'm like, I want you to manage this property, and I'm going to teach you how to do it. And then you're going to realize why people pay property management companies. Then when you build your portfolio, you can choose whether you want to handle that or not.
Right.
And I think teaching people the right way to manage it is super, super important, because that you can lose a lot of money and you can lose a lot of opportunity by mismanaging properties.
Right.
So definitely something to think about when, consulting other people.
Yeah, no, definitely a strong point on taxes, because, I don't know much about taxes.
Me either.
And
the tax codes is big.
Right, right. And there's probably some stuff that we, like you said, that we are missing out and stuff like that. But it's all part of the information that we need to know as investors, and that, I need to keep giving my community. It's like every day as I go on, like, hey, this is what I found out now. Like, let's get better.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a cool model that you have. So the nationwide thing, what's your kind of strategy to scale that? Do you have a target market, or are you just like anybody that calls you, you'll start searching for a deal in that area?
Yeah.
Cause that sounds hard.
It's pretty easy to me, cause I kind of figure it out how to do it, and it works. I mean, at the end of the day, like everything, you have to put the work in on finding this deal. You know what I mean? It is what it is. Like, if you're not, pounding the payment, trying to figure out like who's your wholesaler, who's your, your investor realtor around the area, finding for sale by owner signs or whatever, like you have to get to work. But then once they do it, I've this lady in Atlanta hit me up, and she was like, she did the program with me, and I did like a 3-month follow up. Like, hey, how's it going? Did you find? No, actually, I gave up. I'm not finding. I'm like, listen, like, let's get together on a call, and let's dial in together. So we sat down, and like maybe 2.5 hours, we found like 20 wholesalers around her. We like found like 2 Facebook groups. I'm like, all right, now you have like 40 numbers that you can call to get information, because you need to get information to process it and find out what's good, what's not, or if one is good, see what else that person has and just keep digging. 30 days later, she was closing on something. So now she's under construction working it, but she's happy. And now when she gets done, I can say, hey, who else saw you be successful and now wants to invest? So I can kind of say, hey, well, now do the mentoring program. Okay, well, now you saw how I did it. Let's set up a commission structure where you help somebody else and you just keep that chain going in Atlanta.
And what, like, is there softwares? Are you doing like coaching, like videos? Is it all one-on-one?
It's all one-on-one. Yeah. I feel like, because there's also like so many predators in my community that, let's do this massive Zooms, and everybody's paying like $500 a session. And then they kind of steer them to like somebody to borrow, 16% with 6 points, kind of deals. Yeah. And, they're just getting, ripped off. So now we're doing this, and it's just one-on-one, trying to figure out how to do it. I help you build the system, wholesalers, realtors, and doing the Zillows, do the calls, what to say, how to run your formulas, and just get to work.
Okay. And so when they first call you, what's it look like from the initial call to like the end of your program? Mm-hmm. Is it like a set schedule, like a 4-week, like...
So so when they first call, I want to invest. Okay, so I set them up on a 3-session Zoom call. The first one is basically to teach them the formulas that they have to follow. 2 is basically how to find the wholesalers, realtors around there. And then 3 will be with the hard money lender to get them pre-approved, or if they need to work on that. So boom, they have everything. So now put them to work. And I do like maybe a weekly follow-up to see, hey, how'd it go this week? Did you do your calls? No, I haven't. Well, I can't help you if you don't help yourself. So it's a lot of that. And then once they get a contract, okay, don't sign anything. Let me see it. Let me talk to the realtor myself. Let me analyze it with them to make sure that we are good. And then once they're good, all right, let's run the numbers. How much is it going to cost you at the table, a month, and your net? And then they run with that.
So, not to poke holes in your system here, but it's like, because I'm doing it one-on-one with my client Jet, and we've become friends, and I'm still helping him with his business and real estate and so on. But I give him 1 hour per week, mm-hmm. and if I had multiplied him by 5, I would have no other time to run my other companies or do anything. So do you think there's a way for you to like do it at a bigger scale that's not one-on-one, that you can like scale it up? Because you only have 24 hours in a day. Yeah.
So that's why, once I help this lady, now she can help somebody else, around her, you know what I mean? And I still get, something back. Like, I'm not asking for much, you know what I mean? Just something, what I mean? Yeah. But what I'll get more is like, hey, she's learned something and now she's helping somebody else. And what's that chain's going to keep going? I'd rather see that more than, hey, no, they have to talk to me. Everybody that sees you, they have to talk to me. I feel like that'll be really selfish of me and greedy. And I just pride myself on like, hey, there's plenty of pie to go around.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no. If you're happy with that, like that's good, and more power to you. Just like investing essentially your time into your community. That's cool.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's a different mentality. It's kind of like how Real Broker. I don't know if you're familiar with them and their business strategy of how they brought on agents, and then you have a downline of agents once you recruit an agent on, mm-hmm. and you get paid on any commissions that agent makes, and then if that agent recruits another agent, right? Like it's seems like it's a similar structure that you have going on. Do you have people sign agreements that like, hey, if you help this person, or is it just kind of like
it's kind of like
a trust thing?
Yeah,
like, hey,
it's a trust thing, but probably some paperwork would not hurt. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I've learned sort of the hard way that the whole like back of the napkin handshake thing doesn't work at scale. And we've done enough deals and been, I don't even want to say burned, but cut out of things that we shouldn't have been. And I don't want to sound greedy, but like even as like a general contractor, when somebody asks me for like, oh, do you have an electrician or a roofer? I'm like, well, my business keeps those people so busy that I don't really want to just give that out for free. Like, if you want that person, I'm going to like manage it. Or like somebody, especially like residential, like homeowners will try to call and say, oh, I've already lined up the electrician, the plumber, the HVAC guy. Can you just come in and do the framing? I'm like, no, I don't do that. Like, I'm not a subcontractor. If I'm going to manage that, I'm going to manage the whole thing, and I'm going to take a fair percentage of the cost of all of those things. And I think that's sometimes hard for people to understand, but like, I do value my time. We were talking before about, you know, us training, and we have things that we would like to be doing. And I feel like building that downline in a way where people understand what you're making. I think that's important, like the clarity.
Yeah, the transparency for sure, 100%.
So like a lot of my jobs that I do, like the bigger jobs for bigger investors, like I'm talking like $500,000, $1 million jobs, they're all cost plus basis. So that's an open book. I show them what we're spending, and we charge a management fee on top of whatever it is. So if it's labor, we're charging 20% typically. If it's materials, we're charging 10%. And I show them like, hey, these materials, I'm charging you 10%, but because I spend $2 million a year at Home Depot, I'm getting my materials for almost 20% off in most cases. Now I'm charging you 10%. You're still under what the retail people are spending. So it kind of gives them that that clarity, that transparency, like, oh yeah, Ryan's making money, but he's also saving money. And it's like, here are the QuickBooks reports. This is what I've spent this week. These are all the receipts. This is what you owe. And I feel like that's a good model for what you're doing to kind of build out the referral or the downline on all of those pieces of the puzzle that you got the lending, you know how to manage the contractors and so on and so forth. I feel like you could be capitalizing on that while still helping and saving people money.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You know, and then it's just hard because doing all this, like I'm still married, you know, still got 4 kids. I'm still trying to consistently squat 405.
So yeah, let's talk about that. How do you manage finding new agents and wholesalers in different states and different investors that are calling you, and then you're also a realtor, so I assume you probably have listings here too that you're managing. Yeah. Do you have a team?
No.
Okay, so but it's just you, it's your wife, and then your wife is a hard money lender, so I'm sure she's slammed with all your investors.
Yeah.
So how do you go about manage your time with 4 kids, trying to squat 405?
Sheer will, my friend.
Yeah.
Sheer will. Honestly, I don't know. I just do it.
Yeah.
You know, I just know, like, Mondays we start, a meeting with my assistant, like, what do we got going on this week? What are the fires we need to pull out? You know, and we start like, okay, these are that we have to dig it on now. And then we just kind of plan out the week.
Is your assistant local or?
Yeah. Oh no, she's here. I tried doing a VA and it just wasn't working out. Like I need somebody kind of with me, kind of working. And then, obviously they have to be bilingual. So yeah, she's with me.
Is your wife a gringa?
No.
So yeah, the whole bilingual thing is definitely important for you. I will say virtual assistants, when they are managed and when they're good and they're managed properly, they are a life changer. And I think a lot of people have bad experience. I know Chase has had so experiences with some. I got really lucky in the sense that my first VA, and he's still with me, he's the one that actually edits this podcast, Carl. He's from the Philippines. He is just a gangster. Like he does,
Okay.
he can do anything. Chase,
Shout out to Carl.
Yeah, shout out to
Jimmy,
Carl.
Jimmy, I'm telling you, dude, Carl is the man. Like, just stuff that you don't even ask for, you don't even look for, shows up and it's in your email box, and you're like, dude, what? Like, why? You're thinking 10 steps ahead of me already. I'm supposed to be thinking like this, right? Like,
Yeah.
And like I said, he said, I had a VA, and it was kind of like that same thing. It's like I tried it, and like I was like, oh man, like she just doesn't understand the culture, the marketing. Like we were making marketing stuff, and she just couldn't get it. And I'm just like, you have to have that vision, because like people here understand, right? Like you
Right.
understand what we're looking for marketing wise, and communication wise, it was a little bit of a challenge, but I just hired a new one, and Cyberbacker, shout out to Cyberbacker for helping me find my new VA, and Juris has been killing it for me. I mean, she's like almost a young Carl. So
Yeah, it's cool. I've built this relationship with him too. Whereas my one of my good buddies is actually getting married in the Philippines to a Filipino girl, but she lives here, but her family's all in the Philippines, so he's getting married there. And I'm going to the Philippines in July, and I'm flying Carl out to come to Cebu to hang out with us for a week, and we're gonna go do excursions. Him, his wife, his kid, and he's been working for me for like 2.5 years, and I've Zoomed every day. You know, like we see each other, but we've never actually met. So it's gonna be cool to actually go out there and see him, like across the world. We're gonna go
That's
hang
awesome.
out. So yeah, the VA thing. It's hard to give up like some of that control, like you said, but like when you find a good one like Carl, you can trust them. You know that they're going to get the stuff done. They're self-starters. Like they're not just order takers. Like they're somebody that's like, he literally built a presentation for us like a couple weeks ago, and essentially all it did was create more work for him on the marketing stuff. Like he's like making posts daily and had this whole plan, a PowerPoint, right?
yeah, it was how his idea on how we could grow the social media and generate more views on the podcast and everything else. So he made a whole presentation on what was going to give him more work to do, but he was just so passionate about that. It was awesome to see. And he called Ryan and then presented to Ryan, and then he called me and presented to me. And I mean, they were solid ideas, and it's stuff that like he understands the platforms, the algorithms over here, and so it was super cool. But it's one of a kind, man. It's one of a kind.
Yeah, and now I mean the podcast is doing a couple million views a month.
Nice.
And it's all because of him, and we have Eric Campbell. He's our YouTube consultant.
That's what I've been calling him.
YouTube consultant. Eric Campbell on Instagram. You should, if you're looking for somebody to help grow your video platform, he's the one. He knows YouTube like the back of his hand. And
Matter of fact, he just said that he had a one spot for someone that owns a business, entrepreneur that has a podcast.
Yeah, so anybody that's out there looking, Eric Campbell on YouTube, he's helped us grow significantly. He takes the full-length podcast, cuts them up, and makes the caption the right thing. He pushed it out, like he'll put it out at like 9:12 a.m. or whatever time.
How's the Spanish?
Nah. He's a young gringo.
So like that's the problem with us. Everything is we do it in Spanish because our community needs this information. So it's it does make it hard to get help that knows another language pretty much.
Yeah. I wonder, now this is a question for Eric, and he'll probably hit me up on Instagram, but I wonder if there's a way to transcribe your videos in English.
So there is.
With AI or something.
AI, basically, yeah. So, with AI, they're doing different things. Because, I mean, even with our videos on our podcast, we send so for our marketing, we have, we have content days, me and my wife. So we'll go and, do content for one day. All the raw video is sent to the choppers to chop it up and edit it and go. And then they have our schedule for our Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. So they, and that's how we have our system built for marketing.
And those choppers, are they like Fiverr, or are they Filipino, or are they Hispanic?
They're from Venezuela.
Venezuela. Okay, cool. And how do you go about, like, just if somebody's curious on how you go run a podcast, because it's not easy, and I'm sure you found that out. Mm-hmm. Like, but between the camera equipment, the audio equipment, learning how to video edit, posting it out, it's not an easy thing.
So with us, we started with the camera people here. They have the equipment, you know, because then they'll also take some of the equipment and follow us around doing content. So they have, you know, and then they take the video and send it to them, and then with the guide of our camera team here, we'll guide them like, hey, you know, the vision for this video is this, this, and this, and then they'll chop it up accordingly, send it back to them. Hey, this looks good. Post it, and it goes just keeps.
And
going
everybody
like
in that system all bilingual.
yeah, yep.
Wow.
Everybody's bilingual.
How hard is it to find someone that's bilingual that also runs a camera?
It's not hard. You just
It's
have
not
to
hard.
look.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's fair.
I guess we've never had to actually.
I've never
like,
had to look.
for that.
Yeah.
But I would imagine like, so, you know, Mr. Beast on YouTube,
Yeah.
he's got channels in all different languages, Chinese and Spanish, German, and he just like, he knows the algorithm like nobody else, but
Right.
somehow he does all of his stuff, transcribes it into different languages. I imagine by now there's got to be some AI that could at least do like English subtitles
Right.
for your people that may be interested in what you're saying but don't speak Spanish.
Yeah.
That might be some way to increase your audience too. because-
Yeah, so we have, you know, all of our posts is like, you know, in Spanish, but then I have English subtitles at
Okay,
the bottom. Yeah,
good.
already. And I think Instagram, if you're a Spanish user or a different language user, when you're looking at the captions, it automatically translates them for you.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess I know I'm used to seeing it the other way, but so you're saying so when you post a video in Spanish, YouTube itself or Instagram creates the English subtitle, so you don't have to put it through like another
Right.
platform?
Yeah, that's what
Okay.
that's what my choppers tell me that they do. Or like if my mom sees me post something in English and she's looking on her Facebook, it already translates to her, so she already knows what
In
I'm gonna
Spanish.
talk.
Okay.
Yeah, so she'll call me later and like, why'd you talk about that? I'm like, oh, come on, ma.
Yeah. When I was like practicing, when I was in college and getting better with the language when I was young, my teachers and I had private tutors and stuff like that would always make me watch Spanish, like movies and novellas and stuff with Spanish subtitles, not English subtitles. So
Okay.
you have to like read and listen, and you get to see, you know, all the words and stuff. And then when I was watching, this was like a couple years ago, I was watching Narcos with my wife.
Yeah.
And I had it all in Spanish subtitles. She's like, "Can you just put it in English?" I'm like, "No. That's not how we watch this. It's in Spanish." Because then as a gringo, you just like, you read it. Then you don't listen. You don't like feel it as much because you're just like reading it. And then when you actually like think and immerse yourself in the language, then like it's probably, you don't probably understand because you think in Spanish just as well as you think in
Dude,
English.
it sucks.
When you have to like switch, like for me, it's like a second muscle that I have to work. And it's so easy to just read the English subtitles, but when you have it in Spanish, you have to actually like, and translating is hard. Like you
Yeah.
can speak both languages and not be able to translate.
So yeah, so I mean, it used to suck when my mom used to take me to the doctors. I'm like 7 or 8, and then she's like, "Tell me what the doctor said."
Yeah.
So that's kind of like how it was me growing up, you know. So yeah, or like sometimes now as I'm getting older, like, so I used to work for the railroad for 11 years.
Like Amtrak?
Yeah.
Oh,
Like I
nice.
used to drive trains. So I didn't need Spanish. So like I forgot Spanish. So when I got out of there, like, you know, I had to like, it's funny. So I had to relearn Spanish, a couple words. I mean, I knew it, but it was kind of like be more fluid.
Yeah.
And when I would get, you know, Spanish clients will come to me and they'd be like, all right, like you look like us, but you don't sound like us, bro. Like, yeah, we're going to go somewhere else. I wasn't connecting like that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, at least I look like I shouldn't be able to speak Spanish.
right. So it was a little rough at the beginning. And then my wife, she's Mexican. So
Okay.
me immersing with her family, you know, and just learning more.
Yeah, I was a teacher for 9 years. So we both had real jobs at one point, and I worked at a school with a lot of Hispanic students, and we had mostly white teachers, and we had one Spanish teacher, and I would get tasked with talking to a lot of the Spanish speakers. We had like one person at the front desk that spoke fluent English and Spanish, and sometimes they would be out and they'd be like, "Oh, Ryan, come and help me translate for this parent," because the parent can't like communicate with the teacher. And I'm like, okay, it's not going to be pretty, because like for me to translate, it's much harder than you think. Like I understand what they're saying, but a lot of words like and phrases don't make sense when you say it. Like when
I know what you're saying.
So I'm like, okay, so what are they saying in English? And then like to translate that, it's really, really hard.
Yeah, sometimes I'm with the content team and they're like, yeah, you're supposed to say this, and they're talking to me in Spanish. I'm like, dude, tell me in English. I can translate it in my head so I know what to say it in Spanish.
Yeah.
It's tough.
And then there's words too. This is what's so messed up. Like when I was listening and learning naturally from my parents, like workers, the workforce at the barn, you speak Spanglish, and there's words that aren't even real words, and like then you go to school and they're like, oh, a car is coche. No, it's carro. Like it's no, like I was telling them, like, no, you're wrong. Like, no. In Spain, it's coche.
Yeah.
And in Mexico, it's carro.
Yeah.
And then they have some people have different terms for different things, and words don't actually translate.
Yeah. I mean, a good way to kind of, translating to here to America would be like somebody from New York versus somebody in Texas. Big different accents.
Or somebody from the UK.
Yeah, the New York says, it's brick outside. Like, what? There's bricks outside? No,
Right.
It's cold, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's funny when like you go to different places and you learn like, oh wait, so one of our guys was calling, like the multi-tool, like that you would put on like
Different
cut drywall.
attachments.
Yeah. They call it, I forget what the direct translation, like what they call it, but they basically call it a crybaby.
La chillona. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it makes a noise.
Yeah.
The whining sound.
And when this crew came on and was saying that, it's like, wait, what? What are you saying? You're talking about a tool? Like that's not what. And I'm like, it's crybaby because it's like a loud thing, but like when you're translating that, you can't just say, oh, they're using a crybaby, like,
right.
But in your head, you're like, you don't know, like it's interesting that it's funny, like we have our own words, like you said, like it's brick outside, and Spanish people make up their own stuff, and then having to know both of them is like, it's tough.
Yeah. So now, with our kids, now that, because their ages are 12, 8, 4, 5, she'll be 5 in a month, 5 and 2. So obviously, me and my wife, we speak English, at the house all the time, and then we'll switch in Spanish. But it's funny, they understand Spanish, like it will say something in Spanish, they'll understand, but they'll like just want to speak English.
So I would, if I was you, man, I told my wife already when we start having kids, my nanny's going to be a little abuela. Like I'm going to have a Spanish nanny, and I will not allow her to speak English, even if she speaks English, to my kids. Because the English, like I said, I think it's really like a superpower of mine. Like the guys were just here before, and I was able to literally tell them everything that we were about to do in here, talk about what's happening tomorrow at work, and they don't speak any English at all. There's not a lot of gringos that have that capability, and I feel like when you have the ability to naturally teach them the language, it's so much better than them, because they'll learn English by just being here.
Yeah.
But kids, it was so much easier for me to learn it when I was young than for me to expand on what I already know now. Like I only expand on, unfortunately now it's just the slang stuff that I pick up from the guys and talking every day. Yeah, right. And when I have to tell people, I'm like, despacio, soy casi fluido, no puedo hablar todo, and like they're like, oh, okay, and then they get it. But if I had been more immersed when I was young, I feel like I would be even more fluent than I am now. So I feel like with the kids, you already have that like superpower.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I'm sending my kids to your house, man.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, you have to find bilingual staff. Like those people, like for me on my property management team, like we have bilingual staff, and I couldn't live without them, because not only are the guys that are fixing stuff Hispanic, and some of them don't speak English at all, we have tenants that are Spanish that don't speak English at all. So when they communicate with me, they're communicating in Spanish, and when they communicate with my office staff or my maintenance guy, they're communicating in Spanish, and then they have to, you know, relay that to me. So like those people are so valuable that are truly, truly bilingual. And I don't even want to claim like being fully fluent, but I'm fluent enough where if you put me in a Spanish speaking environment, I can definitely get by. You'll know that I'm not natural, but I can get by. And I feel like, that's something that is going to be really important for my kids, because my wife doesn't speak any Spanish at all. She went to school and to be a math teacher, and took Italian for a couple of years, and she knows like 10 Italian words or whatever, you know. Like
I need Italian words right now. We're about to go to Italy.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, they pronounce their L's, so they're like pollo is polo.
Okay.
So that's a new one. That was a new one for me, because I was at an Italian restaurant and my wife corrected me, and I said pollo, and she's like, no, it's polo.
But it's
I'm
kind
like,
of the same.
I'm like, it is, but it's not. Like,
Right.
it's not. It's not the same. They're very like. I think it's easier once you speak like one of those like romantic languages to learn the other, but they're still like definitely different. Like there's different rules and conjugations and stuff like that. But Spanish, I think, I don't know. We have to look this up so you can fact check me. It's got to be the second most popular language in the world. Maybe not with Chinese, but like here it's definitely
Number 2.
English and Spanish.
Yeah.
And that's a really important thing, especially with like all the people that are here that speak Spanish.
Yeah, especially in this world, you know, with the contractors are mostly Spanish.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of like you said, you do have a superpower in this for sure, because you can really understand what the problem is, and not having to wait for, you know, the one Spanish guy that speaks English to come and be like, "This what's going on."
Yeah.
So that is, you're right. It is a superpower.
Dude,
Yeah.
I wish I had that superpower. I didn't learn Spanish until high school, and I did 4 years, and I could probably, like your wife, I could probably tell you 10 Spanish words. But I wish that I could go find a crew at Home Depot and like just talk to them and then be all surprised when a gringo is talking to them and in Spanish, you know, like it is cool. And like Ryan translated for us in Cabo, like we would always look at him and be like, yo, what are they saying? You know, and he's like, I'm not your fucking translator, but like
it gets mentally, like, especially we're in Cabo, like we're on vacation, and it's like mentally draining because everybody then is trying to talk through me to the people, and I'm like, I'm too tired to think this much. But it is like when you have it, I feel like you gotta like pass it along, and I value it so much that I told my wife, and I was like, this is a non-negotiable. Like our nanny will be like an old Hispanic woman that has raised 10 kids and their grandkids, and like I want them, because running businesses and stuff, like I really have no choice but to have a nanny, or I'll get stuck being
I mean, we're hitting that wall right now with me and my wife with all the kids. Kind of it's tough, you know, because 2 of the kids, they go to school, and then the 2 other kids, we have to take them to the abuela. You know, this lady has watched, I think she even watched my wife when she was a kid. Like she's been, you know, watching kids for a while. Yeah. So, you know, and it's kind of hard to not keep taking our kids to her, because that trust has already been built, you know. Yeah. So
does she speak English to your kids?
No, she only knows Spanish.
See, that's good.
Yeah.
That's what I want. Yeah. I don't want any. I was like, there's 2 things that I want in my nanny. I want her to be only, like, I want her to mainly only speak Spanish. She's only going to speak Spanish to the kids, and she can't be hot. She gotta be old. She's gotta be a grandma. She's gotta have been through it and raised a bunch of kids herself. And that's the 2 things that I want in my nanny. So I feel like that's something that, like, my kids, when I hopefully have them soon, I'll be able to speak about my wife to my kids without her understanding. That's my goal.
Yeah, that's sick. And that's what I was going to say. The other reason I wanted to be able to speak Spanish, and like it's super cool that you and your wife can, talk together and everything, is like I'd love to be at a restaurant and just start talking shit about somebody else. And they not know, like
it's funny in Cabo, half the time they would like, we have this guy Justin who's a character, big dude, 6'7", just a giant man, and half the time he would just say something ignorant to say to the guy, and I would instead say something ignorant about him, about Justin. I'd be just making fun of him to the guy, and he thinks that I'm talking about something else, and I'm just talking shit about Justin. And I think that's just like what you have is really, really crucial, I think. And I believe what you're doing with the Spanish community is amazing, and like that, having your kids be like the next generation of that, like perfectly bilingual. I don't see another way to be in this business than had I not been bilingual.
Okay.
Or personally, and I know it's probably hard for you to understand because you're just naturally bilingual, but it is like much more difficult for somebody that doesn't speak any Spanish to run a construction crew and be in this game.
I mean, like I said, when I was railroading, like I did not need to use my Spanish. Well, I'm gonna say, hey, I'm coming down track numero 3, watch out. Be like, what the hell are you talking about?
Right. Yeah. You don't. Yeah, if you don't use it, you lose it for sure.
Yeah.
I know that. Like even just the gap, the kind of couple of gap years that I had between when I really got like deep into the business and when I was just teaching. Before I got into Annapolis school, I was teaching up in Harford County.
Okay.
And there's not a lot of Hispanic people up there.
Yeah,
like
my kids are telling me that.
It's muy blanco. So I didn't use it for a couple of years. I was there for like 3.5 years, and then I came down to Annapolis, and that's when I started the business. And I was like building the relationships with the guys. This was like 2016. Building the relationships with the guys, and I was starting to use the Spanish again. And then it starts clicking. And it comes back quickly. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like muscle memory, in the sense of like you could squat 405. If you started from scratch, it's going to get really hard. But if you took 3 weeks off, you could probably go back, get back there pretty quickly. And then I got into the school with a lot of Hispanic kids and talking to their parents and talking to them. I would be talking to the kids who try to speak English, like they want to speak English, and I'm like, I want to speak to you in Spanish because I want to practice too. And that was. That's really what accelerated back up to like where I remember like, oh, this is how you speak Spanish.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that even like your mom doesn't speak much English at all.
It's super broken. It's just really heavy.
So you grew up only hearing Spanish.
So I was born in LA, and it was all Spanish. I learned English going to school, and then kind of learning the slangs and the bad words and all that stuff, and then progressively like. English outside of the house, Spanish inside the house, and it just kept growing like that. And then when we moved to Baltimore in '97, it was like a culture shock. Like it was just like I was like the only Spanish kid in the school. It was just like, all right, this is different. But then my brothers, it's funny because it's 3 of us. Like me and my middle brother are pretty good with the English and Spanish, and then my youngest, like his Spanish is like way off. And then now we're seeing that with our kids. Like our oldest, like his Spanish is good. When it gets to like the youngest, it's kind of getting diluted.
Yeah. So
need to work on that.
My dad, it's funny, he's friends with the jockey who actually won the Kentucky Derby. And he's from Venezuela, and his wife is a gringa, and he speaks Spanish at home to the kids, but has like fallen out of the habit of speaking Spanish, and the oldest kid speaks Spanish back and forth with the dad, and the youngest like refuses to speak Spanish, and because they stopped doing it at home. And I'm like, they're missing out on such an important piece of like their culture, that I feel like that's something that like it should be a non-negotiable.
Yeah. Me and my wife were trying to have days where, it's only Spanish in the house. but it's hard for us, it's because we're from here. We,
Yeah.
we're part of the American culture. And it's like we
Right.
English all day, every day type thing, to kind of stay true to I guess our roots kind of per se. So we do try to spend a lot of time with family where the family kind of, most of the family just kind of speaks Spanish altogether.
Yeah.
And then my wife's family is huge. So, that's also helping kind of putting all together. But that's kind of what's giving me the passion to help my community, because me knowing English, me knowing how things are around here, I can understand it better and translate it for them to say, hey, there is a better way for you to be wealthy. Mm-hmm. So me and my wife kind of tag team together on this to do this and give this information. And, it's going really, really well so far.
So how do people like get in touch with you? Somebody that's listening to this podcast, maybe they're Spanish speaking, maybe they're English. Mm-hmm. Do you have a website? Do you have something you can like plug?
So you can just reach me Jimy the Realtor on Instagram, and that's kind of my main source. And it's got a link tree right there. You can kind of search me and see everything that I do.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and do you take on people that don't speak Spanish?
Yeah, for sure. Or sometimes a lot of investors says, hey Jimmy, I have somebody that doesn't speak English. Can you help them? A lot of that. Or realtors somewhere else too that have Spanish clients, and they have a referral fee, of course.
Yeah,
sure.
That's awesome. Do you have anything else to add to this one, Chase?
No, I think you guys bonded over there with your Spanish speaking.
Sorry, Chase.
We
it's fine.
excluded by little gringo over here.
It's okay. I'm gonna have to get on what's the app to learn Spanish?
Like Babbel or
one of those. I'm gonna have to-
Duolingo. Yeah.
So I'll be on there tonight, just like typing away.
How do you say? Verde. Green. Well, Jimmy, thank you so much for coming out. Sorry, I apologize again. I promised all of our listeners that we'd have a nice new studio last week, and we've been
Somebody needs to hit up the contractor.
the
and let him know
contractor's just
he's
been
late.
slow. I had to pull these guys off to sell a house and do a pin list, and I'm like, we're supposed to be in the other room already, and so I apologize. Thanks for coming to my construction zone here.
Nah, man. No, it's all good.
But,
Thank you
yeah.
for having me, for sure.
Jimy the Realtor on Instagram. Also, this is something that you could plug to your people. We host an event, a quarterly event every quarter. The next one's on July 31st over on Deerco Road.
Yep. Timonium.
Timonium. Our law firm and title company, Mid-Atlantic Title and Albers and Associates, they are our sponsors. They're hosting it at their I'm trying to find the exact location, but it's on Deerco Road. Follow us on social medias, Everyday Millionaire Show. You'll see us posting, but it's a great place. We usually have 150 200 people that come out, and it's all networking. There's there's no sales, there's no me talking about myself or my business. It's just a party, essentially, where we pay for all the drinks, all the food. At this event, actually, Albers and Associates and Mid-Atlantic Title is taking care of everything. We'll have live music, food, drinks. Everything is free tickets. There's nothing.
And this is perfect for your first-time investors, too, because literally it's everything. Like, from hard money to contractors to movers to window companies,
Shout
electricians.
Out to, Ronaldo Calle?
Is that from the You Move It?
Yeah, You Relax.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You Relax.
So he is actually moving Piping Rock. One of my clients, he's moving them tomorrow, Thursday. Is tomorrow Thursday? Wednesday. Thursday. He's moving them Thursday, and he sponsors all of our events. And he kind of tries to do a similar thing where he brings a lot of the Hispanic community together and tries to teach them how to run businesses more than invest in real estate. But like, he built a really successful moving company, and he does that like guerrilla marketing where he's just everywhere. Like every event he sponsors. Like, doesn't matter where. He was at the real estate rumble thing the other day sponsoring that. Like, it was all middle-aged white women there, and he's just sponsoring that. Like, he doesn't care. He's a gangster too. Like, so there will be people there for your community to network with and learn from. So July 31st up in Timonium from 6 to 9.
Okay.
So tell your people,
We'll get you
everything's
the address.
All
yeah,
right,
we'll get the
thanks.
address. Everything's free, nothing to sell. We just we like to bring people together. Selfishly, we always do get some sort of client or something out of it, but we never, like, I hate the events where you go and you have to sit in a chair and listen to somebody talk about how much money they make or some
Yeah.
BS, like, what's those, not the, when they're trying to sell you like a timeshare.
Oh, the
timeshare thing.
They give you a free lunch.
Yeah. Like we're not trying to sell anything. We're just there to bring people together. So July 31st, 6 to 9. Jimmy, bring your peeps.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. Till next time.